Have you ever walked away from a conversation, feeling like something inside you was just taken, but you can't quite explain how? They didn't yell, they didn't beg, they didn't even ask. And yet, you said yes. You agreed. You gave. You stayed. You silenced your instincts and called it kindness. But what if I told you it wasn't your decision? What if that invisible discomfort was the echo of your mind being quietly controlled? Because the most dangerous kind of manipulation doesn't use chains. It uses affection, guilt, loyalty, and your silence. Machiavelli once said, "The one who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived." Let that sink in. You were never naive. You were trained to be agreeable, trained to doubt your gut, to prioritize peace over truth, to believe that saying no makes you selfish, to confuse being liked with being safe. But this video isn't here to make you feel ashamed. It's here to wake you up, because manipulation is not always loud. It wears a smile. It shares your bed. It thanks you for always being there, while stealing your time, your energy, and your clarity. And Machiavelli didn't write for the easily comforted. He wrote for those ready to see the truth, no matter how uncomfortable. Because only then do you begin to move from puppet to strategist, from reaction to awareness, from controlled to in control. This isn't a lesson in becoming cold. It's a journey in becoming clear. And clarity, my friend, is the most radical form of power you will ever possess. Before we step into this emotional labyrinth, I want you to pause for a moment and do something brave. If you've ever felt emotionally used, quietly pressured, or walked on eggshells around someone, comment below, "I'm ready to see the truth." Then hit subscribe, because what you're about to learn won't just protect your mind, it will rebuild it. Are you ready? Then say the words out loud, "No more." Let's begin. The soft prison you never saw being built. Manipulation rarely begins with a demand. It begins with something far gentler, a compliment, a favor, a carefully timed, "I just want what's best for you." And it feels harmless, even flattering, until one day you realize you're saying yes just to avoid the guilt of saying no. That's the invisible thread, and it wraps around you slowly. Machiavelli understood this well. He warned that power is not always taken. Sometimes it is given away by those too afraid to seem unkind, because the truth is, we often betray ourselves, not because someone forces us, but because we don't want to disappoint them. You feel it, don't you? That strange weight on your chest when you think of drawing a boundary? That hesitation when you consider saying, "I can't help this time." That's not your weakness. It's your conditioning. You were taught to please, to avoid conflict, to be the good one, even when it costs you your peace. But here's what Machiavelli would whisper to you in that moment. He who seeks to be good all the time is bound to come to ruin among the great number who are not good. It's not a call to be cruel. It's a call to be wise, because kindness without clarity is not virtue. It's vulnerability. And if you keep offering parts of yourself just to be accepted, you will one day look in the mirror and realize you've become a stranger in your own life. That's how manipulation thrives, not by overpowering you, but by gently convincing you to abandon yourself. So I ask you, where in your life have you been quietly surrendering while telling yourself it's love? The first act of reclaiming power is not fighting others, it's noticing yourself. And once you see the pattern, you can finally step out of it. The emotional gaps that make you a target. You are not manipulated because you are weak. You are manipulated because you are human. Every person carries an invisible gap inside them, a silent need, a lingering wound, a place they try to fill with approval, safety, or connection. Machiavelli didn't believe in fairy tales. He believed in human nature. And he knew If someone understands your emotional gaps, they can guide your choices without ever lifting a finger. It starts young. You learned early on that love had conditions. That affection came when you behaved. That attention came when you were pleasing. So you started molding yourself, smiling when you felt uncomfortable, staying silent when your gut screamed no, overgiving just to feel safe, and the world called it kindness. But a manipulator sees that. They smell it like blood in the water. They know how to play the victim, to trigger your guilt. They know how to flatter you, to awaken your thirst for validation. They know how to threaten distance, to tap into your fear of abandonment. Machiavelli wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does at last. And if you're wise, you'll stop waiting until the damage is done to notice the signs." Because here's the hardest truth. Sometimes the people who say, "I love you," are the same ones tightening the emotional leash around your neck. Not out of hatred, but out of habit, out of their own wounds, out of their own need to feel in control. But you are not here to be someone's emotional solution. You are not here to be guilted into loyalty or loved on the condition that you never say no. You are here to wake up, to see clearly, and to finally name the need that keeps pulling you back into the trap. So ask yourself, quietly, what is it you're afraid to lose if you stop being easy to control? Is it their affection, their approval, the illusion of harmony? Whatever it is, that is your work. Because when you seal that gap, manipulators lose access. Not because they stop trying, but because you stop responding. Emotional immunity. The invisible armor. Emotional immunity isn't built in battle. It's built in silence, in the quiet moments where you learn to pause, to observe yourself before reacting. Machiavelli understood that control doesn't always come from dominance. It comes from predictability, from knowing exactly which emotional button to press and watching you flinch, freeze, or fold. That's why the first step to emotional freedom isn't to harden your heart. It's to study it. Where do you react too quickly? Who makes you feel obligated just by existing? What phrases instantly trigger your need to explain, fix, or please? That's where your leash is. The manipulator doesn't need to shout. They just need you to stay emotionally predictable. But once you become self-aware, you become unreadable. Machiavelli might have said, "To command respect, one must cultivate mystery. And mystery begins with stillness." So here's your training. Step 1, pause before you please. When you feel the urge to comfort, fix, or agree, stop. Ask yourself, is this true to me or is this fear of conflict? That pause is power. Step 2, speak less, observe more. The more you talk, the more people learn how to move you. The more you listen, the more you see what they hide. Silence creates space, and space reveals motive. Step 3, become unpredictable. If they know you'll always say yes, they stop asking. Say no. Withdraw, disengage, disrupt the pattern, and watch the control begin to unravel. Step 4, build your inner compass. Manipulators distort your sense of self. They make you question your worth, your memory, your instincts. But when you know who you are, when your voice inside is louder than theirs outside, you become untouchable. And here's the truth. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear, because clarity cuts through control like sunlight through fog. Machiavelli didn't write to help you feel safe. He wrote so you could survive, so you could see the game and stop being played by it. And today, you are no longer the puppet. You are the player. When the manipulator is someone you love, it's one thing to spot a manipulator in the wild, a coworker, a stranger, a charming new acquaintance. It's another when the hand pulling your strings is one you once trusted. a parent, a partner, a friend you've known for years. Because when manipulation wears the face of love, you hesitate, you rationalize, you stay. You say things like, "They don't mean to hurt me. That's just how they are. Maybe I'm being too sensitive," but deep inside, you feel it. That slow erosion of your boundaries, that quiet shrinking of your voice, that constant need to tiptoe around someone who claims to care. Machiavelli saw the danger in closeness. He knew that proximity can blur perception, that affection can be used not to nourish you, but to disarm you. And so he taught one thing above all: never confuse loyalty with blindness. Here's the hard truth. Love is not supposed to cost you your identity. Respect is not supposed to require your silence. And connection is not an excuse for control. But in toxic dynamics, your no becomes a threat. Your independence becomes betrayal. Your boundaries become the battleground. So how do you reclaim your power? You start with this painful truth. Not every person who loves you knows how to love you without harming you. And that's not your failure to fix. It's your moment to choose. Step 1. Set boundaries without apology. A firm no is more honest than 1,000 explanations. You don't need to justify your peace. Step 2. Expose the dynamic. Not to argue, but to acknowledge. Say what you see calmly. "I feel pressured when you speak that way. I notice I shrink around you." This is not for them to understand. It's for you to stop pretending. Step 3. Hold your line when the backlash comes, because it will come. They'll withdraw, they'll guilt trip, they'll twist your words. And in that moment, you will feel the weight of every time you stayed quiet just to keep the peace. But here's what Machiavelli would remind you. The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. You do not owe your suffering to the people who gave you history. You owe your healing to the person you are becoming. Because love, real love, does not clip your wings. It helps you fly. And if someone's affection demands your silence, that is not love. That is emotional captivity dressed as care. So ask yourself now, is this connection helping me grow or keeping me small? If the answer stings, good. That sting is truth waking up inside you. Strategic thinking in a world that manipulates. Machiavelli didn't teach cruelty. He taught clarity. He didn't worship power for power's sake. He studied how people operate when no one's watching. And then he showed you how to survive that reality. And the truth is, you live in a world saturated with invisible influence. Social media doesn't just entertain you, it programs you. Advertising doesn't just sell, it shapes desire. Politicians, influencers, even well-meaning friends, everyone is playing a game. And if you don't learn to see the game, you will be played by it. So how do you protect your mind? You think like a strategist without becoming a cynic. You don't shut down emotionally. You open your eyes psychologically. Here's how to begin. Learn the language behind the language. People rarely say what they mean. A compliment may be bait. A favor may be leverage. A confession may be a distraction. Listen less to the words and more to the why behind them. Machiavelli said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." So, observe people not by their charm, but by how they respond when they don't get what they want. Use silence as a sword. In a world that overshares, silence confuses. It protects. It commands attention. A manipulator thrives on emotional feedback. Don't give it. Let your silence speak what your words no longer need to. And when you do speak, say less, mean more. Master the art of unpredictability. When people can't predict you, they can't control you. Say no when they expect yes. Disengage when they expect drama. Stay calm when they try to trigger you. It disrupts the game and reveals their motives. Appear soft. Stay sharp. You don't need to show all your strength. Real power is quiet. Real clarity is humble. Machiavelli taught that power often lies in the illusion of virtue. Be kind, but don't be naive. Be generous, but not at the cost of your center. Appear flexible, but move with intention. Stay anchored in who you are. Manipulation only works when you need something from the other person, their approval, their validation, their protection. But when your sense of self is solid, no one can offer you something you don't already own. Your greatest protection isn't detachment, it's alignment. When your inner compass is steady, you stop chasing, you start choosing, and this is what most people miss. You don't need to play dirty to win the game. You just need to know the rules and play consciously. So the next time someone smiles and asks for just a little favor, pause. Ask yourself, what are they really seeking? And more importantly, what part of me is tempted to say yes, even when I feel no? Because that's the entry point. And once you see it, you're no longer standing in the dark. You're standing at the edge of mastery, reclaiming your mind, the final severing of the strings. There comes a moment when the illusion shatters, when you realize that the voice convincing you to please, to shrink, to stay quiet, was never yours. It was planted by a parent who made love feel conditional, by a teacher who praised obedience over truth, by a world that told you your softness had to be earned with sacrifice. And when that moment comes, you face a choice: to keep living as a version of yourself that others prefer, or to finally step into the truth of who you are, even if it costs you comfort. Machiavelli once warned, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." But what he meant wasn't to become cruel. He meant be untouchable. Not by threat, but by clarity. Because clarity intimidates the manipulative. Not because it's harsh, but because it's immune to distortion. So how do you take back your mind? You stop labeling your conditioning as your personality. You are not too nice. You are trained to keep the peace at the cost of your truth. You stop mistaking guilt for guidance. Just because you feel bad saying no doesn't mean it's wrong. It means you're healing. You stop chasing approval and start following alignment. The more you know what matters to you, the less power anyone has to pull you away from it. And finally, you stop believing the lie that love must always mean staying. Sometimes love means leaving. Sometimes love means letting go of who you were taught to be so you can become who you were always meant to be. Machiavelli was not heartless. He was honest. He stripped away the comforting myths to expose what power and freedom really required: awareness, discipline, and the courage to see people not as we wish them to be, but as they are. Now you see. Now you know. You can't unknow this. So the final question is not what will they do? The final question is, what will you no longer allow? The moment you decide, you are no longer the puppet. You are the hand holding the scissors. Cut the string. If this message reached a hidden part of you, if you felt seen, shaken, or even awakened, don't let that feeling fade. Comment below, "I choose clarity over control," and tell me, what emotional game are you walking away from today? Then watch the next video, because once you see manipulation, you start to see everything differently, including yourself. And that is where transformation begins. See you there.